Tonight, dead fish, 6 surfers and months of warnings. A Four Corners investigation reveals what the public wasn't told about the algal bloom. Hello, I'm Bethanie Alderson. This is ABC News South Australia. Also tonight, a fishing trip turns to tragedy. The bodies of 3 men found off SA's coast. Israel launches a ground operation in Lebanon while Dubai airport is struck again. Motorists are urged to stop panic buying fuel as the oil crisis deepens. And Australia's Hollywood hopefuls leave this year's Oscars empty-handed. Despite early warning signs of a harmful toxin, the South Australian government took months to update its public health advice on the state's devastating algal bloom. It's now 1 year since the bloom began spreading along the coast, making it one of the nation's worst marine disasters. Four Corners' Angus Grigg reports.
It was one of the first signs of environmental catastrophe.
See, that's what a dead oyster looks like.
Steve Bowley's South Australian oyster operation was forced to close for 8 months last year because of a toxic algal bloom. His farm is back up and running, but the impacts of the bloom on marine life haven't gone away.
The environment here is broken.
It's because of a species of algae never seen before in Australia, which produces brevetoxins.
We've never had brevetoxins, so just our detection of brevetoxins is a trigger for a full investigation.
But it took the South Australian government 4 months from the discovery of the toxin in oysters to change its health advice for asthmatics.
One thing that's more important than speed is getting it right, particularly when we're talking about public health measures.
In Adelaide South, Kerry Sutton says she was successfully managing her chronic lung condition before the bloom.
Now, if I go outside and doesn't even have to be much of a breeze, the eyes start, the lungs are really tight.
The state government denies her symptoms are directly linked to the algal bloom and says they aren't consistent with the published literature.
You don't have any faith in the government, do you?
As experts predict climate disasters will become more frequent and intense, this algal bloom is a warning to the nation. Angus Grigg, ABC News.
The South Australian Premier is defending his government's response to the algal bloom crisis. Peter Malinauskas has insisted officials worked quickly to share information as the bloom spread across the coastline.
As Premier, he's overseen the government's response to the algal bloom disaster and today is standing by that.
The algal bloom, according to SA Health, resulted in 0 presentations to the public hospital system.
The devastation to marine life has been clear, and in June last year, test results from 2 dead kangaroos showed brevetoxins were present.
That piece of scientific work concluded that it is not likely that the brevetoxin contributed to the deaths of the kangaroos.
But it's something experts say should have warranted further investigation. The impact on human health has also been a topic of discussion for many South Australians. In September, there was updated health advice 4 months after the first brevetoxins were discovered. People with asthma were told to bring their puffer to the beach.
It's really concerning, and I think the Premier's got some explaining to do.
I have complete confidence in the public health team in South Australia.
In October, the Premier specifically said the bloom wasn't toxic.
That's been proven to be untrue. This is toxic.
Toxic as in the context that it is deadly to humans, then of course it's not. If it's toxic in the context of it being technically a toxin in the same way that alcohol is, then yes.
I don't think South Australians are interested in playing semantic word games. This is a toxic algal bloom.
It's wash up again in the spotlight. Evelyn Manfield, ABC News.
The bodies of 3 men have been recovered after their boat capsized in waters off South Australia's southeast coast. The men were visiting from New South Wales and police say they weren't wearing life jackets.
A fishing trip turned to tragedy. 3 men from New South Wales, aged 65, 67 and 74, launched from the Beachport boat ramp. The alarm was raised when they failed to return.
It's just a shock for all of the families. I feel for them, and I'm so sorry you've lost some beautiful guys there.
After a major search effort, 3 bodies were recovered late on Sunday.
It's a tragic end to what should have been a pretty standard trip for these gentlemen.
Just hours earlier, locals had advised the men to delay their fishing trip.
I said, mate, however big your boat is, there's a wave to match it, and these aren't the conditions to be out in that boat.
After 2 boating deaths in the same region last year, police are backing calls for a volunteer rescue service.
It is an ongoing issue, and SAPOL are supportive of the establishment of a volunteer marine rescue capability out of Port Macdonald.
Just last month, the South Australian coroner inquiring into previous fatal boating accidents recommended anyone in a boat under 7 metres be wearing a life jacket. Police say the boat the 3 men were in was just under 7 metres and none of them appeared to be wearing a life jacket. Police will prepare a report for the coroner. Sam Bradbrook, ABC News, Beachport.
Heading overseas, Israel has begun what it's calling a limited ground operation against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. It comes as Iran rejected US President Donald Trump's claim that the regime is ready to negotiate an end to the conflict. And flights were again temporarily suspended out of Dubai.
Flames near the tarmac. A drone hitting a fuel tank at Dubai's airport, forcing flights to be suspended yet again. The attack followed another round of US and Israeli airstrikes against Iran. These residents returning to their Tehran home several days after it was hit, to find there's little left.
Here on the floor below we had one child, a 1-month-old. Thank God he was able to get out safely.
Another woman in the capital told the ABC she's still hopeful the country's leadership will be toppled. But she says the communications blackout imposed by the regime has worsened.
We feel trapped like hostages. It's as if this regime is taking everything from us.
The US president claims Iran has largely been defeated, but says he's not yet prepared to end the war.
They want to negotiate. Badly. I don't think they're ready.
We have never asked even for negotiation. We are ready to defend ourselves as long as it takes.
Donald Trump is demanding other nations help protect oil tankers from Iranian threats in the Strait of Hormuz, pointing specifically to China and warning NATO countries they'd face a very bad future if they don't step in. The Australian government says it's not been asked to get involved and doesn't plan on doing so.
Iran has fired hundreds of missiles at Israel since the conflict began. The Israeli foreign minister denying reports that his country is running low on interceptors that defend against them. As Benjamin Netanyahu mocked rumours of his own death following online speculation that recent footage of the Prime Minister was AI generated.
We are doing things striking Iran very hard, even on this day. In Lebanon as well, we continue.
Hours later, the Israeli military announced it had started what it's calling limited and targeted ground operations against Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. Israel's assault against the Iranian-backed group is estimated to have displaced more than 800,000 people. With shelters full and storms setting in, this family of 7 is taking cover in a truck.
We're putting tarp over it because we're soaked with water. I just want shelter for me and the children.
Trying to protect the youngest victims of war. Catherine Diss, ABC News, Jerusalem.
The federal government claims it did everything it could to help the Iranian women's football team after a 5th player withdrew her asylum claim. Campaigners say they fear for their safety when they get home.
Atafe Moradi knows the Iranian regime's playbook well. She played for her home country's national league before moving to Australia and says her every move was tightly controlled.
All the time they are telling you to keep your hijab on, roll your sleeves down, don't do makeup.
They put pressure on you that you shouldn't do this, do that, or even...
Otafe knows some of the players and is heartbroken a fifth woman has left Australia after withdrawing her claim for asylum. She claims they were pressured to change their minds by a team staff member who also left on the weekend. And she fears the two remaining players are also under pressure.
I have been for some time trying to get in touch with one of them, but they say that because they are under watch, I can't talk to them right now.
While the opposition's backed the offer of asylum, it's criticising the government's approach.
The government should have done everything it could not to make a massive song and dance about what had been achieved for and with these women.
It is, at the end of the day, their choice, and they have made a different choice, and we have to respect that as Australians.
International media with ties to Iranian expat communities are reporting that the players were coerced into returning to Iran and that they were played audio messages from families pleading that they go back. But government sources say there's no evidence that an individual in the team staff was involved.
But for many, the main concern is what happens now.
They could put them in jail and cancel all their matches, not allowing them to play football any longer.
Which would be the last thing any sports fan would want. Nasim Khadem, ABC News.
Experts say Australia should prepare for the possibility of 1970s-style fuel rationing. With the war in the Middle East taking out 1 in 5 barrels, motorists are being urged to stop panic buying as it's making shortages even worse. Daniel Ziffer reports.
Sky-high prices in Darwin, queues in country Victoria.
We're putting a truckload in, and by the time we turn around and go back, that load is gone the next day.
Even after the release of reserves to deal with the pressure on supply caused by the Iran conflict, we're vulnerable.
We've very much relied upon global fuel supplies and been a little bit complacent.
Australia imports about 90% of oil used in this country. The government says we have 29 days worth of jet fuel, 30 days worth of diesel and 37 days worth of petrol, which will go down when the emergency stockpile flows through to fuel companies. Experts say it's more like 20 days of jet fuel, 25 of diesel and 26 of petrol.
The OECD recommends about 90 days. New Zealand has around that, and we're obviously way off.
Now, a world market with 20% less fuel available because the Strait of Hormuz is effectively shut.
So we will have to adjust our fuel consumption and how we do things in this country.
There are no current plans to ration fuel.
They're doing their best endeavours. They've got cargoes coming. They've made some changes at the refinery. So look, the suppliers are doing everything they possibly can.
In the late 1970s, supply shortages and price spikes caused by another conflict in the Middle East led to rationing here. You could only fill up every second day.
Officially, today was for the even numbers.
A survey of dozens of Sydney stations revealed that only 1 in 4 was open for business.
At this stage, retailers aren't concerned about their future supplies. Any potential restrictions are going to come down to how long this conflict lasts, and that's a question no one in Australia can answer. Daniel Ziffer, ABC News.
The Premier has held crisis talks with industry leaders over the state's fuel supply. Peter Malinauskas insists local shortages have been caused by increased demand through panic buying. He says fuel security is the Commonwealth's responsibility and the government is taking action where it can and providing regular updates to industry. The Liberal Party wants a temporary fuel excise and road user charge reduction to ease costs on the community.
As a state government, we can act as a facilitator, we can act as an advocate, and we can act as a sharer of information between industry and the federal government themselves.
We're sending a really clear signal. We want to see that immediate hip pocket relief, and that means a reduction in the fuel excise.
A mother of 2 who faked her son's cancer diagnosis has told an Adelaide court she wholeheartedly accepts it was wrong. She's asked the court for mercy in her sentencing, but the state's Victims' Rights Commissioner says her actions have diminished the suffering of seriously ill children and their families.
These pictures of a 6-year-old boy were taken by his mum, who faked his cancer diagnosis in a scam to raise money. The 45-year-old has faced South Australia's District Court as part of her sentencing.
It's deeply offensive. I mean, it's offensive to her friends and family and the community, but also to think that you would do this to your own child.
The mother's lawyer said her client didn't want to cause harm to her children. Instead, she wanted to ease financial stress. She said the 45-year-old was living a keeping up with the Joneses lifestyle in the lead up to the offending, and to the outside world, the family appeared to be living the life of the rich and famous. The court heard the 45-year-old developed a gambling addiction during the COVID-19 pandemic, which significantly contributed to the family's financial stress. Her lawyers said the mother of 2 was entirely in charge of the family's finances, and her husband was unaware of any issues. Despite previously being charged over the crime, the court heard the boy's father had no knowledge of his wife's actions. He told the court she has destroyed him and his family's life, and they've had to rebuild everything. The woman will be sentenced next month. Eva Blandis, ABC News.
The Royal Commission into Anti-Semitism has been asked to investigate the AFL after references to the Jewish community were taken out of a pre-game tribute to the victims of the Bondi terror attack. Sydney Swans Chief Executive Matthew Pavlich led the tribute to victims, referencing families, first responders and hero Ahmed Al-Ahmed, but the Jewish community wasn't mentioned. On the weekend, AFL Chief Executive Andrew Dillon said he didn't know why the script was changed. The Swans have since apologised and taken responsibility for removing all references to the Jewish community from the script. Victorian Senator James Paterson has asked the Commissioner to investigate the league. Crowds turned out in the nation's capital today to greet the Danish monarchs as they continue their Australian tour. It was another busy day for King Frederick and Australian-born Queen Mary, who head to Melbourne tomorrow.
Rolling in royal fashion and greeted by hundreds at the Australian War Memorial.
She's an Australian icon, I think. I can't believe that we've got an Australian queen.
Pretty exciting. I mean, I've never met a royal, so first time.
The King and Queen pressed the flesh for the first time this royal tour.
Nice to meet you. Hi.
The chance to meet the royals.
Hi, Georgia.
Attracting even the youngest of monarchists.
I said, hi, it's my 10th birthday. Can I please get a picture? And she said, oh, happy birthday. And of course you can get a picture.
This is the royal couple's first visit to Australia since becoming King and Queen of Denmark in 2024. Those getting to share a brief moment with them today will no doubt treasure the experience for many years to come.
I'm actually from Melbourne. I spontaneously Friday night decided to drive up yesterday. There may not be another state visit to Australia.
The pair laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And left poppies for 2 airmen killed in action over Denmark during the Second World War. Then it was down to business at Parliament House. Last night they were guests of honour of the Governor-General, the King reflecting on meeting Tasmanian-born Mary during the Sydney 2000 Olympics.
Australia has held a very special place in my heart ever since I slipped into that bar.
Next stop on the tour, Melbourne, before a fairy tale homecoming in Queen Mary's native Hobart. Lily Knopfling, ABC News, Canberra.
To finance now, and the local share market fell again today. Here's Alan Kohler.
The ASX All Ordinaries Index has fallen 6.8% since February the 27th, the day before the United States and Israel attacked Iran. So not yet a correction, which would be 10%. But it's probably fair to say that investors have their fingers poised over the sell button, with their eyes and ears glued to the Straits of Hormuz. Today's action was a bit like most days in the past couple of weeks. Energy stocks up, miners down, and today retailers caught a bid as well. But I think we can also say that investors are still pretty confident the war and the closure of the Persian Gulf won't last very long. This graph compares this energy shock with previous ones in terms of supply disrupted, not price. Last week, the International Energy Agency said this one is the worst in history. And this graph is what the IEA was talking about. But markets are not acting like it is. Also, this shutdown is about far more than oil and gas. It involves about half the seaborne trade in sulphur, more than a third of the methanol, urea and fertiliser, and a fifth of the phosphate and ammonia. But most of the attention is on energy, of course, and specifically fuel. Here's a graph of the average Australian petrol price and the oil price. Now, petrol is now higher than it was in 2022, but oil is not. So retail margins must have expanded since then. The Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee will reveal its decision on rates tomorrow at 2:30. The futures market is putting the chances of them going up at 68%, but the economist choir is singing the rate hike chorus. And one of them, Paul Bloxham of HSBC, said today that the economy will need a downturn to get rid of inflation. A recession? Time will tell, he said. The Aussie dollar crept a bit higher in anticipation of a rate hike. Global share markets mostly fell. And on commodity markets, West Texas oil is sitting just below $100. Gold and silver and copper fell. And that's finance.
You're watching ABC News South Australia. Coming up on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, the massive data centres moving into the suburbs.
This is just looming over us 24 hours a day.
It's just so imposing in every single way.
This will be one of the largest standalone sites in the country, more than 225 megawatts of IT power here.
They're relatively small as a user of power relative to other users.
Also, I'll be talking to Energy Minister Chris Bowen about the latest on Australia's fuel challenges. That's coming up.
To sport now, and with Adelaide's hopes of a first NBL title in nearly a quarter of a century on the line, one of the 36ers' star players says the fierce criticism he's faced motivates him. The 36ers must beat South East Melbourne tomorrow night to qualify for the grand final after a tight series which has prompted plenty of scrutiny of import Nick Rakocevic.
Plays like this have led to critics calling Nick Rakocevic dirty.
Pushed him in the back and whacked him in the back of the box.
But the big man at the centre of the storm isn't bothered by the criticism.
It just kind of makes me go harder, you know what I mean? Because that's just people who, you know, either doubt or, you know, have something against me, which gives me, like, personal energy just to, like, prove people wrong.
Rakocevic and his Adelaide teammates have the chance to do something the 36ers haven't managed to do since 2002 in bringing the championship back to South Australia. And it's the approval of those hometown fans, not external critics, that he says is all he cares about.
Everybody else that's not a part of this community, a part of our team community, I could care less about what they say.
Those championship hopes hinge on Tuesday night's deciding Game 3 in the semi-final series against South East Melbourne after the Sixers blew an 18-point lead to lose Game 2. Limiting the impact of Phoenix star Nathan Sobey shapes as a key to victory.
We need to make him uncomfortable. We need to be more aggressive on him.
A plan the Sixers hope will get them one step closer to a title. Sophie Holder, ABC News.
In Formula One, McLaren is desperately trying to work out what caused the mechanical disaster at the Shanghai Grand Prix. It's launched an investigation into two separate electrical faults that meant Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris failed to make it to the start line.
Oscar Piastri's season has gone from bad to horrible.
It just couldn't get any worse at the start of the season for Oscar Piastri.
This was meant to be a story of redemption for the Melburnian after he crashed before the start of his home Grand Prix. Now his 2026 title hopes are in tatters.
It was an electrical problem on the power unit, different to Lando's, so yeah, just very unfortunate.
McLaren is urgently seeking answers from engine supplier Mercedes as to how two separate issues stopped Piastri and Lando Norris from starting the race.
Of course, frustrating to come such a long way, put in a lot of effort, not just me, but the whole team, and not even start a race.
It seems to be like an extremely unfortunate coincidence of two different problems on the electrical side of the power unit appearing at the same time.
I was surprised that there's two separate units bad enough that would stop two cars from running.
It's been a chaotic start to the new F1 era, driven by new cars and new regulations.
I don't think this will be the end of seeing failures for these power units.
But there's hope the current mayhem is just a temporary bump in the road.
As the season goes on, I expect these faults to get ironed out and for them to become less of a talking issue and for the excellent reliability that we're used to seeing Formula One cars operate with to return.
Piastri has another chance to start anew at the Japanese Grand Prix in 2 weeks. Tom Maddox, ABC News.
Australia's Hollywood hopefuls have walked away from the Academy Awards empty-handed. Rose Byrne and Jacob Elordi stunned on the red carpet, but both missed out on the golden statue. Action thriller One Battle After Another took home a swag of awards, including the prestigious Best Picture, while another favourite was snubbed entirely.
A red carpet awash with Aussies, familiar faces and some of Hollywood's freshest. The Academy Awards, an opportunity for La La Land to celebrate.
Not because we think all is well, but because we work and hope for better.
And make a statement or two.
No to war and free Palestine.
Brisbane's own Jacob Elordi was nominated for the first time, but he missed out to One Battle After Another's Sean Penn.
Sean Penn couldn't be here this evening, or didn't want to.
His work in Frankenstein, though, didn't go unnoticed, the film picking up 3 statues.
My mate Jacob Elordi, who sat for 400 hours in the makeup chair during filming.
It was then one Oscar after another.
One battle after another. One battle after another.
Sweeping 6 awards from 13 nominations, including Best Picture.
The Oscar goes to One Battle After Another.
And for the first time in the Academy's history, casting.
Cassandra Kulakun.
Hamnet's Jessie Buckley beat Rose Byrne for lead actress.
This is...
While Sinner's Michael B. Jordan took home the gong for lead actor.
I stand here because of the people that came before me.
Sports drama Marty Supreme was snubbed, the team leaving empty-handed. K-pop Demon Hunters made history with its original song.
Growing up, people made fun of me liking K-pop, but now everyone's singing our song.
While some of the big screen's most beloved were memorialised in an emotional tribute.
What fun we had storming the castle.
A night appreciating the arts and the escape it provides. Melissa McKay, ABC News.
Let's take a look at South Australia's weather now, but first, tonight's photo, thanks to Gordon Hallett. It shows a bird visiting a garden in Nelshaby near Port Pirie. It was grey and drizzly across Adelaide today. We reached an early top of 20.8 degrees around 6 a.m. after staying pretty warm overnight, only dropping down to 17.7 around 8:30 this morning. That wet weather extended across the state, but it was Oodnadatta that picked up the most rain, recording around 27 millimetres there. It reached 21 degrees in Woomera and 18 in Mount Gambier. Cloud over southeast WA, our state, Victoria, Tasmania and New South Wales with a trough brought rain and thunderstorms today, while cloud over the northern tropics in a trough will continue to generate heavy showers and storms. That activity will also move through to the country's interior, Victoria, New South Wales and our state. Interstate, a top of 35 degrees in Perth, wet and 31 for Darwin, 29 in Brisbane, Canberra with 24 degrees. Back home, there'll be rain and the chance of a thunderstorm in the north with heavier falls possible for the northeast, 23 degrees in Ceduna. Showers will clear in the south of our state with top temperatures below average, 22 degrees for Clare and 25 in Naracoorte. There's a severe weather warning for heavy, locally intense rainfall for parts of the northeast and northwest pastorals. A flood warning continues for our inland rivers and a flood watch is in place for parts of the north and northwest of the state. And for Adelaide tomorrow, it'll be partly cloudy with 26 degrees down to 17 overnight. On the waters, southeasterly winds to 15 knots with seas below 1 metre. Sunrise at 7:15 and sunset just after 7:30. And looking a bit further ahead, it'll be mostly sunny for Thursday and Friday. Cloud clearing on Saturday with a top of 26 degrees. Then it'll be sunny with a top of 28 degrees for Sunday and this time next week. And that's the latest from the Adelaide newsroom. Thanks for your company. Stay with us. 7:30 is up next.